Welcome back everybody. Today I'm pretty excited because I've taken a trip out to a brand new mini ramp. Now it's still a little bit damp, and while it's drying I thought it would be a good opportunity to reflect on the past 6 months progression on the Andy Anderson Heron 2 eggboard. Now I was pretty excited to get hold of the Andy Anderson eggboard, and when I did I put together a full video of the setup and my first thoughts, so you might want to go back and check that out for all the nitty gritty. Now I'm going to go back and reflect on each of my decisions with that setup, go through any changes that I've made, and also reflect on the progress that Andy Anderson eggboard has provided. Okay, first up is the symmetrical shape, and I have to say I got on with this like a house on fire. It's really liberating not having a particular end, so when you pop it down on the coping you just go no matter which way the board is round, and it's the same every time, and it's the same on the flatland. A couple of advantages of that double-ended symmetrical shape is that the board wears exactly the same both ends, and if you have a look you can see that both tails are worn pretty much the same. I deliberately set this board up so that I didn't know which end was which. A symmetrical deck job, and also that graphic is symmetrical, and that's also meant that the trucks have worn pretty evenly as well. Now about 3 months in, something slightly strange started to happen, and that was I started favouring one end over the other. I was going for a 50-50 in the deep end, and I was a little bit nervous, and I think that brought on a bit of OCD in the head, and I noticed there was a nick in the grip tape on one end, and I started favouring that end just because I wanted to keep everything exactly the same for each try. Now I reckon that's pretty much down to my neurosis. Other than that moment, I've just been putting the board down willy-nilly and going in with gay abandon. That double-ended outline has been really good for doing any tricks that involve going backwards or going switch or changing the board around mid-trick. Just having that consistency of both ends being the same really brings on a lot of confidence when riding. So next up is the flight board construction, and I have to say this has been incredibly durable. It's had 85 kilos of clumsy rider walleying about on top of it, landing awkwardly. That board has been flying around all over the place, and in terms of the riding feel, it still feels exactly the same as when I got hold of it. Now I think one of the mistakes I made was trying this board without the rails, and I did this purely to change it up. I've always ridden with rails and I wondered how it would feel without them. And I got on okay without the rails to start with. I actually preferred the feel of no rails for doing tricks where the board was rocking on the coping, gave a little bit more grip and it sounded really nice. But it was definitely not as good for sliding, and I do like doing the odd board slide. So after a couple of weeks I popped the rails on, but that graphic was pretty worn and has remained the same ever since. So next up are the Ace trucks. I fitted these straight on with no risers and I really enjoyed the direct feel. Now I got on with the Ace trucks like a house on fire to start with, absolutely no problem. I changed the bushings out because they were a little bit soft for my taste, and with the Bones medium bushings, it felt like business as usual. I think the reduced hanger length on these 8.5 Ace trucks really helped the lock-in, and it helped me develop my 50-50 grinds, and I managed to start doing those on the deep end of the pool. Now this is purely subjective, but I prefer the way that Indy trucks grind, and I prefer the general feel of Indy trucks, and I think this is purely down to the fact that I've always ridden Indy trucks. So I fitted 55mm Spitfire wheels with a 99A Durameter and some big ball bearings. I already knew that I liked those, and the 55mm and the 58mm OG Classic Spitfire wheels are still my go-to choice. So I've ridden 3 main decks since I started. The first one was the Andy Anderson 9-inch deck, and then I moved on to the Kendall Snake, and now the Andy Anderson Heron 2. And I have to say, out of 3 of those boards, I think I've made the most progression on the Andy Anderson Egg 2. I found because it was 8.7 inches wide, it was a little bit more manageable, and that double-ended feel really boosted my confidence for doing fakie and switch tricks. So what would I change for future setups? Well, the first thing would be to try and get this board in standard construction. I do like the flight construction, it wears super well, but it's personal preference and I just prefer the feel of a 7-ply deck. Next up, I would fit Indy trucks on this one, 8.5 inches wide or whatever the correct amount for the Indy trucks would be. And the final thing on the wish list would be to try and get this exact board, but with a 15-inch wheelbase. Now the 14.5-inch wheelbase did feel better for certain things, but I found just for pool, riding and carving, it wasn't quite as comfy for me as the 15-inch wheelbase on the 9-inch Andy Anderson board. I'm 6'3" and a little bit lanky, and I find that extra wheelbase really helps for scooting around the pool. So overall, it's pretty much my perfect deck. Just release it in the 7-ply, stick a 15-inch wheelbase on it, bang those independent trucks on, and whew, jobs are good and Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. Okay, enough of my yakking. I'm gonna have a spin on this new mini ramp. I'll see you on the other side. Okay, that's it for this video. That was pretty exciting on this new mini ramp. Just the right height, and those extensions gave me just the right speed for some fast 50-50 grinds. The coping is also set just nicely to lock into, so I could get my bag of the usual 10 tricks that I do on a mini ramp. Also, being not too big means I can ride it without pads. I'm just using the one pad on my swell bow just for a bit of confidence, because I don't fancy knocking that one again, especially with no pad on. If you're new to the channel, feel free to hit subscribe. I make new videos every week. You can also follow me on Instagram at John Bishop Skate. As ever, my name's been John Bishop, and I'm a middle-aged guy learning how to skate.
Yeah, John, what up? Out here.